YouTube, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the show. Look, everyone keeps asking me, when's XRP's price finally going to react to these ETFs? And the answer, it's closer than anyone thinks, because what's coming on Monday, this is going to be the spark that could kick off the real move. If you're not paying attention right now, you're going to miss that moment. In this video, we're going to talk about it. When should we expect the price of XRP to go up? Why does it take so long to see the price increase from these ETFs? I got you covered. As always, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And we're going to start right here. Franklin T and Grayscale, Monday is the day. They have both been approved from the New York Stock Exchange and the 24th. That's it. I'm excited for Frankie T. Look, Grayscale is going to do very, very well. Trust me. But Franklin Templeton, I mean, this is a $1 trillion asset manager. Both of these ETFs launching on the same day, bringing the total to 4 ETFs. Fireworks are coming. Same exchanges, same pipelines, right? This isn't your canary capital level cute inflow. This is institutional machinery. And once it turns on, guess what? It doesn't turn off. And here's the real question. What happens when both giants start accumulating at the same time? What happens when both of them need XRP liquidity immediately? And what happens when circulation isn't enough to feed them? That is when your price just doesn't move. That is when it actually reprices itself. And if you want to actually understand this cycle and the ETF cycle, which we are clearly in, and avoid all of that crypto Twitter noise, which is all nonsense, join the free newsletter. It's that simple. Link is down below. And if you are preparing to make a major move in crypto, tax structure, figure out the markets, when to sell, book that one-on-one call, folks. That's the ignition. That is the firepower that we are talking about. Now, look, while crypto is usually the topic of this channel, I want to take a moment and talk about another industry that I think is going through a massive bull market as well. We're talking about the copper market. Experts are predicting now that 2026 could be a huge year for copper. And look, I agree with it. If you think about it, China, they dominate copper refinery, right? They control over 57% of the market share. But here's where things start to get interesting, because everyone knows your president, Donald Trump, and the US government, they know that they cannot rely on China for copper. They need to produce it themselves. Copper, it's essential for the future. Trump even tweeted himself stating that copper is the second most used material by the Department of Finance. And we are starting to see something that we've never seen before. The US government has started to invest in copper companies. They've also been awarding billions in contracts to copper companies. These stocks, they're skyrocketing. I don't think people are actually grasping to the opportunity here. This is just the beginning. That is why today's sponsors is Copper Giant Resource, folks. We can see the tickers right here, CGNT, and we also got LBCMF. Copper Giant owns 100% of the Mocha project that is over in Colombia. This is located in the Andean Belt, one of the richest copper districts in the world. This is the exact type of setup that Trump is looking for. And what's really interesting here is that early interest has already shown, and the company's CEO, Ian Harris, was invited to the US Embassy in Bogota to discuss shipping concrete to US refineries instead of China. This is the kind of setup that you only see when policy, your politics, and a bull market collide. The video is sponsored. It's not financial advice, but I really think you should start looking into Copper Giant Resources. And now we're going to get back, and I want to talk about these ETFs and the price and what is going on with them, because everyone just wants to know. And I get it. Look, and we threw it in the ChatGPT. When's the price going to go up? We have all these outflows, and ChatGPT really broke it down. And I gave you my narrative on this, right? Remember, your ETFs, they don't buy all of your XRP in one day. People think that, BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton wake up on launch day and they just start panic buying billions and billions of dollars worth of XRP. That isn't how ETFs work. An ETF only accumulates the asset, so XRP, when investors buy shares of the ETFs, not before. So if the ETF launches and inflows are slow at start, the issuer barely buys any XRP at the beginning. This is why your day one does not equal fireworks. This is what you usually get. You usually get hype, followed by a small pop, then a sell of the news to pull back, exactly what we saw with XRP. Then you get a slow grind higher once the real inflows begin. This is exactly what you saw in Bitcoin back in January of 24. Bitcoin didn't pump instantly. It pumped when the inflows, they kept coming day in and day out. Then you talk about your market makers here. They suppress your volatility early. That's the whole reason of your market maker. That is why they are hired, to keep the ETF tight and orderly, not to send it vertical. Their job is to prevent huge spreads, prevent chaos, and smooth out the inflows. And then your institutions slowly start to move in, right? This is where it starts to pick up, because most early inflows, they're all seed capital and not real demand. That's key, right? Every ETF launches with seed capital. That's basically what I'm saying. Here's 5 to 20 million to get this thing going so it doesn't look dead. Seed capital isn't real investor demand. It doesn't move your market. So the question everyone wants to know, when does the price finally move? It's simple. Weeks 2 to 8, your inflows ramp up. This is what I talked about. I told you 30 to 60 days. This is where things start getting interesting. As your RIAs, your hedge funds, and family offices, as they start allocating, you start to see a steady daily flow come in. You start to see market makers buying XRP so they can start hedging against this thing, and your liquidity starts thinning out. Then the prices slowly start grinding upward. Bitcoin ETFs, they didn't have the real breakout to 30 to 40 days after launch. But now remember, Bitcoin launched with massive players like BlackRock. XRP's kind of starting small, but we're starting to ramp up. Frankie T is a big one. I told you 30 to 60 days. That is what we're looking at here. Expect the same, or maybe it's faster, who knows, maybe it's slower with XRP because your liquidity is a lot thinner. Then we get to phase 4. This is the liquidity crunch. This is where a real pump starts, right? This is the part your retail doesn't actually understand. XRP circulating liquidity supply, it's already tiny, maybe 3 to 3.5 billion of them, right? Once ETFs start removing XRP off exchanges and storing it in its custodial structures, well, your XRP available for retail, it shrinks. Your demand increases and your supply dries up. This creates a delayed supply shock. If you didn't listen to the first video, go give it a listen. We talked about this. This is where you get your sun, and out of nowhere, you woke up and it's just this massive green candle to the upside. Then you have your people who are chasing the green candles. It's like the lawyers back in the day used to chase the ambulances. You remember that? CNBC covers, liquidity gaps, cascading effects. This happens in 3 to 9 months. Puts you in middle of next year, exactly where Trump's check is coming out. So what's your realistic timeline? Let's break this down because this is just beautifully, beautifully written. 0 to 14 days after launch, don't expect any price impact. Maybe a small pop. 1 to 2 months, steady upward pressure, the beginning of the real move. Exactly what I told you, my timeline. 30 to 60 days after you have 5. So December to February will be the window we're looking at. But 3 to 6 months, which is going to put you around that April to August, April to September timeframe, institutional inflows are going to hit. I mean, like a freight train. Liquidity crunch begins, price starts climbing hard, and then 6 to 12 months after that. So figure, Q3 to Q4 of next year, you get your supply shock era, you get price discovery, and you get breakout into new levels that we have never seen before. It's exciting, folks. Very exciting times. But as all that is happening, we get this. Robert Vince, who is the CEO of BNY Mellon, he straight up said that tokenization is the mega trend. Listen.
Can you go into digital assets and sort of this trend toward tokenization and how that plays into the business model a bit?
Yeah, sure, Carl. It's a really important trend. It's one of the mega trends. We identified a series of mega trends about a year ago, and we said we want to position our business, invest in those capabilities that will allow us to benefit from those mega trends. Because while we want to drive and are driving organic growth, we also want to make sure that we're attaching ourselves to these big market cycles, and digital assets is one of them. Now, that's not just stable coins, it's also tokenization, and it really is across the ecosystem. So we've been investing around the ecosystem for using our traditional assets and then evolving our traditional business assets to be able to be on chain as well.
Now look, this right here, this is from one of the oldest banks in America, the bank that safeguards trillions for government pension funds and global institutions. When these guys say megatrend, they're not talking about hype or even a social media narrative. They're talking about infrastructure changes. These changes that can reshape capital markets for decades. And here's the kicker. because tokenization needs speed. It needs settlement finality. It needs liquidity bridges. It needs compliance, and it 100% needs interoperability. That is why the XRP ledger and XRPs keeps getting pulled into the center of every institutional conversation. It's not about a meme pump. It's about becoming a backbone of tokenized financial flows. Now, while the infrastructure is forming, let's talk short-term timeframes. Over on XRP right now, we have an article right here talking about price. So right now, what are your support levels? What should you be watching? As I have told you, $1.90, $1.70, and $1.50. That is what you need to look at. On the upside, we just need to get back above $2. That is a major support region for us and a psychological barrier. This is where investors start to get emotional, and your weak hands, unfortunately, are going to exit the market. This is where people forget that ETFs are literally live right now, and we have even more ramping up. We will have a 2x, actually, we get to 7. We will have a 300% ETF increase by the end of next week. And we just went through the time frame. So people, this is what's going to happen. I'll tell you the exact playbook. People are going to come in. They're going to look at the ETFs. They're going to be like, I'm holding for the ETFs here. And they're going to look at them and they're going to be like, they didn't do anything for price. I thought they were. I was told that they were going to. And they are going to exit and sell out of their positions because they do not understand the actual flows, everyone. And then Michael Saylor, he just dropped one of the most accurate quotes out there. He stated that the fact that you can buy Bitcoin for under $80,000 right now, it's a joke. And he stated that it is at a 99% discount. I mean, this man, he sees the markets differently than me and you. He thinks in cycles. He doesn't think in candles. And guess what? Your institutional buyers are thinking the exact same way. Listen.
Really kind of at a perfect inflection point, because it's not a slow motion train wreck, because that's the wrong metaphor. It's the opposite of a slow motion train wreck. It's a slow motion parade of wonderful things. They're all going to happen. We know they're going to happen. There's a 98% chance they're going to happen. I just can't tell you exactly the date they'll happen, but I think over the next 4 years, everything you could want that's good is going to happen. And so the market is discounting that. The market doesn't believe any of that. All right. So the idea that you could actually buy Bitcoin at 80,000 right now is a joke. What I said is, when the bank lets you buy it, when Bank of America lets you buy it and you can just order it and buy $1 billion at a time, it'll cost you $1 million. And when your traditional banker recommends it to you, because it's growing 20% a year and it's risk-free in their opinion, it's going to cost you $10 million. And so you can wait until it's easy and risk-free and you'll pay 100 times as much, or you can do the research and jump through a few hoops right now for Bitcoin and you get a 99% discount with all these other things.
What I want to do is I want to relate this back to XRP. Why? Well, it's simple. They're not buying XRP for next Tuesday. They're buying it for the next decade. This mentality is exactly what hits when the ETFs go live, which brings us over to this, because ISO 20022, it's live. Price chops around. Ripple just announced that they became the first DLT focus member of the ISO 20022 standards body. This is the foundation of global payments. Every bank message, every settlement, every cross-border transfer, it all runs through ISO, folks. Ripple isn't trying to be part of the system. It is literally joining the group that decides how the system actually works. They are positioning for the geopolitical scale. And then, not last but not least, Jerome Powell. There we go.
Bitcoin is a speculative asset. It's just like gold, only it's virtual, it's digital. People are not using it as a form of payment or as a store of value. It's highly volatile. It's not a competitor for the dollar. It's really a competitor for gold. You know, that's really how I think of it.
So this is your final piece of the puzzle, right? When the most powerful monetary figure on the planet openly validates crypto as a store of value, your ETF demands, they multiply. When Bitcoin demands multiply, liquidity flows across the entire digital asset market. And when XRP has 2 ETFs launching this same day, that's when the price stops reacting slowly and starts reacting violently. So when can we expect XRP's price to increase from the ETFs? Well, it's very simple. Here's your answer. 2 major ETFs go live simultaneously. So it makes 4 by the end of Monday. Institutional flows, they begin immediately. Tokenization infrastructure is forming. Ripple is integrating with global standards, and the bottom structures are forming across the market. Sentiment is shifting from fear to accumulation, and liquidity cycles are approaching their next phase. Price doesn't move when everything is clear. Price moves when pressure builds beneath the surfaces, and that is exactly what we are seeing right now. Folks, join that free newsletter, book a one-on-one call if you need clarity before the next leg, because when these ETFs are all up and running, we're going to enter a new chapter